And then he said maybe 15, so we compromised on 10. So I'm not going to talk for more than 10 minutes. I want to tell you a little bit about my story and suggest that it's our story and that we face a really important moment in time. I grew up in England, as you might be able to hear. I still have the vestigial accent. One of the clearest memories from my childhood is of an enormous beech tree. There was a beech tree in a country place where we used to go with friends that had an enormous bough and an enormous branch, and you could lie on the branch and look up through the tree at the sky. And the sun would come down through the leaves, and the smell of new-cut grass would waft across the garden, and it was the most beautiful and the most peaceful place I knew growing up, and sunk deeply into who I am and what I value. And I needed a peaceful place like that because my household growing up was not very peaceful. My parents had their issues. My guess is many people here grew up in households like that. But it was a little rough inside the house. And I learned that what was important to get ahead in life was power. And what was important to get ahead in life was to be real. And that no one was ever going to push me around. And that the beech tree was nice, but it was for weekends, it was for outside, it was for spare time. What was real was holding your own in a difficult and dangerous world. And so I went to MIT, I studied engineering. I thought if you're going to understand power, you've got to understand engineering. And I discovered it wasn't about the technology, it was about the money. So I went to Harvard and studied economics, got a PhD in economics from Harvard. And I became one of the world's experts on technological change. So at one time I knew more than most people about what drives technical change, where it comes from, the economics, how much money, how we really get this whole system going faster and harder. And all that time I was hiking, I was kayaking, I walked the length of the Pyrenees with my brother from the Atlantic to the Mediterranean. It's quite something when you come down after 600 miles out of the mountains to the sea. I kayaked the length of the Noatak in Alaska, right the way across the length of the Arctic, across the Arctic Circle, across the length of Alaska. But all the time, that was just another part of my life, firmly walled off. What was real was me in an Armani suit, in windowless conference rooms, talking about how to make money. That was what was important, and that was sort of the heart of my life. And a few years ago, my brother, who was an environmental journalist, got me to start reading some of the environmental science. And so I read about climate change, I read about what's happening in the acidification of the oceans, how much waste we're emitting, what's happening to the water supply. And my immediate reaction was, I guess this crew won't be surprised, well, I should just quit. I'm just spending my life oiling the wheels of corporate capitalism, I should just stop. And about the same time I had a dream. I dreamt I was in an old 60s Cadillac, a convertible Cadillac. I don't know if they had convertible Cadillacs, but it had lots of fins, it was convertible. And I was in this car and I was trying to drive it out of a parking lot, and I kept banging into the walls. And in the dream I heard a voice saying, just get out of the car. So this is pretty clearly, quit, get out of the car, stop. And so I thought about doing this. And I thought about becoming an activist, about fighting the good fight, and started working with a bunch of green groups. And they, in fact, persuaded me to stay as a business school professor. They persuaded me that the only way we are going to find a way through the problems we face is if we reform the economic system in which we're embedded. And of course, there's an important role for those people who are storming the barricades. Someone's going to upend capitalism, Prem. That's a really nice suit, may I say. There's a very important role for people on the outside saying, this is corrupt, let's start over. But I think it's a very important moment when we need to mobilize the community, and I think it's a large community that is like me. I mean, sounds very egocentric, but I mean in the following way. I think there are hundreds of thousands of people who are playing the game because they think that's the only way to survive. They are signing up, they're putting on the suits, they're saying it's all about power and money and what we can measure, but they know that if we just pursue this current course, we are not going to get anywhere. There's many people who want to get out of that car, who want to do something different. And what we are called to do is find a middle way, is to find small, fuel-efficient cars, is to build an economic system that is in balance with the social and environmental worlds on which we rely. And what I found in my own work is that when you stand up and you put that flag up, you find friends and you find allies. I found them in business people across the world. People who are trying to rebuild multi-billion-dollar corporations in a way that is just and sustainable, and are attempting to be simultaneously world-class business people, because we're not going to be able to do this if we are not the best business people out there and the best technologists out there. But we need to take those skills and harness them to the kind of just and sustainable world that we want to build. And I think that is harder than simply quitting. It's harder than just simply saying, oh, the whole system's corrupt, I'm going to live on a commune in Vermont. That was a 60s answer. I think we've discovered that withdrawing is not the solution, that engagement is the solution. And I think we are at a moment in history where hundreds of thousands first and then millions want to engage with us and build a new system, a sustainable system, a just system. I can think of nothing more exciting or interesting to spend one's life doing. So I hope you'll join me, and I hope to be part of this amazing group in doing what you're doing. Thank you very much.